Thanks for checking in, everybody. What's up? I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the UFC 229 press conference recap, I suppose. I got my really good friend here with me, good friend and Canadian filmmaker Patrick Condon. And Pat, are you there? Are you with us?
I am, Dave.
I'm gonna have to just try that one more time. One more time, Pat?
I'm here. Are the good people watching able to hear me right now, Dave?
There are. I actually see we get a comment there. Can everybody hear the great Patrick Condon okay? Can I get a comment?
That's a check 1, 2, 3.
Yes, we got a yes. So
okay, that's good.
That's great. So again, my dear friend and Canadian filmmaker Patrick Condon with us. So man, it's just as well to just get right to it. We're literally 3 minutes removed from the on schedule 40 minutes late press conference. What's your initial reaction or takeaway? Just minutes removed.
Well, I thought that it started off a little awkwardly. I think maybe it's because there wasn't like an audience there, and so when Conor started ranting, it sort of sounded really unhinged.
Yeah.
And so it was a bit strange. And then, but what I liked about it is that like Khabib didn't really engage with him, and as like he wouldn't even look at him for the first part, and so Conor just seemed to get like more and more manic about it. And I was like wondering how where this was going to go, and then unfortunately, I think things kind of just settled back into, or fortunately, depending on what side you're on, things kind of settled back into a sort of classic Conor press conference when Khabib started to engage with him and really like looked like he didn't know what to say or to do.
I know exactly what you're saying. It's crazy. I know the exact sort of moments you're talking about when Conor really just wasn't getting any kind of rise or reaction from Khabib. And all of a sudden you started to hear the severe, like actual genuine aggravation in his voice. Where where he just starts to become, I guess, like sort of ultra, even like escalating how aggressive it really is. And like you said, it's just genuine, I guess, fucking aggravation of not initially getting a rise. But yeah, like you said, but ultimately when it settled in, there was a real pocket of it there where it was just a lot of them talking over each other for 3 and 4 minutes straight. And like you said, it just sort of takes what momentum's there and it just sort of plateaus it in a hurry.
Yeah, it got a little cringy because Khabib kept on saying like, "Why don't you call me?" Like, why? Like it turned into sort of like it sounded like it was like a coupling session where like Khabib wasn't talking shit. He was like trying to ask why Conor wasn't like connecting with him or his DMs and I thought like Dana kind of dropped the ball by letting that kind of chunk go for like it seemed like to go on forever. He just didn't jump in, and Khabib, in his broken English, was trying to I don't even know what the fuck he was trying to say to Conor, but it had something to do with Conor not responding to him and Conor having too many people in his entourage, and like it seemed like he was trying and Conor going back to the friend that Khabib had roughed up. It seemed like Khabib was trying to like sort out their issues and not viewing this thing as like a means to hype up the fight.
Yeah, when he was talking about that, because I remember when he was talking about, he's like, I direct messaged you, you never got back to me. Was he talking about after the bus incident, or was that like years ago? Was he talking about, because again, obviously the broken English thing doesn't help, but I was confused about that. Did you get the impression he meant like after the bus incident, I wrote you?
That's the impression that I got, but I don't know. It was hard. And if there's any time that I wish that Conor was going up against somebody that had like fluent English, like this is the time, because you could like there's so much shit that you could talk about Conor right now. If you had any kind of English like linguistics, like even like. Well, I don't know. Like, I mean, even maybe Nate would have been able to pull off some like zingers. Like Conor kept on referring to himself as a fighting veteran. And Khabib never said anything about it at all, Let that pass.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like there's a bunch of different ways that you could have gotten under his skin, but like, yeah, Khabib just really wasn't like, and I guess he's not like, he's not the showman that Conor is too. And then, I know what your feelings are about when it comes to sort of the pro wrestling promotion side of MMA as opposed to just going out there and fight.
No, I'm fine with it, but the thing is, like you said, Khabib is the polar opposite of a showman. That's the thing, and it's just sort of like, I don't know. It's funny because I still came away from it because, you know, it was like an up and down sort of thing because first it was just initially that first 1 minute when Conor was walking out, I was just thinking, man, it's fucking good to fucking see this guy back, and I was loving it. But then very quickly we entered that territory where they were just sort of shouting over each other, talking over each other, and like you said, Dana didn't jump in. Dana was the only one there. The media sure as hell weren't going to jump in, and it was just like, there was no control over it whatsoever. Not that I blame anybody for it, but it wasn't the like sort of formal and professional setting I was sort of expecting. I guess I should have known better. Like coming into this sort of thing, because there was no fans involved, like the episode I did earlier this week was talking about how I actually love the fact that there's going to be no fans involved. So I was like, you know, it doesn't always have to be a fucking shit show, you know? And that, like, I think in a professional setting, it'll set in how serious this thing really is, and perhaps they'll, you know, have, like, real dialogue and answer questions. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, because Conor acted and did the exact same shit if there was 20,000 screaming fans, you know, he did the exact same thing as if there was 20,000 screaming fans as opposed to just the media. Who, by the way, some of them were cheering. Did you see that? Like when he first came out with the whiskey? It's like, what the fuck?
Jesus. Oh my God, it was crazy. Like even the fucking Irish dude that asked the question and then like teed Conor up about the Putin and Khabib thing. Like, I mean, you say that there was no fans there. There was a bunch of fans for Conor, that's for sure.
They're just like, you know, media professional. But no, you're exactly right. And that fucking cracked me up. Like that's how like polarizing he is. They just couldn't help themselves. Like when he first came, there's like, a pocket me 1 minute. And we're back, I think. And we're back. Sorry. We're back. We're good to go. Pat, could you repeat what you just said, Pass? Because we dropped for a second, but it seems as though we're back on air. So you were talking about, I think, were you talking about the altercation with his manager from the side?
No, I haven't gotten into that yet,
okay,
but it was just like the awkwardness that Khabib had with a lot of the media guys. Like, he's very standoffish, and the fact is that, like, I mean, my feelings about Conor as a performer has changed, but I'll admit, like, the reason that I got back into MMA is because you told me about Conor McGregor 5 years ago or whatever. But I'm getting kind of tired of like the show that comes along with him right now. It's getting a little played out. Sort of,
yeah. So it's sort of my feelings on the thing. Like I said, like I expressed in this past week's episode, the exact same thing. I was like, man, you just like. You can't episode the exact same thing. I was like, man, you can't keep that up every single time. That's why I was sort of hype about there being no fans there, because it's like, oh, this is different. This will break things up, give it an opportunity to be something different. Because if it's just the same shit show, the exact same thing every single time, it detracts from the specialness of it when you expect and get a variation of the same thing every fucking time. When you expect and get a variation of the same thing every fucking time. But with that being said, this, there was a little bit of of the technical sort of articulate McGregor that I love sprinkled in there. I would say in this one about 3%, but just the one part, like we'll think about, he was obviously just being just a completely, crazy character as he is. But when he was posed with the question of, what do you think of the matchup between Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier? It was like for that one moment, he put all that shit aside. And he's like, yeah, that's a really good fight. Nate is tough as shit. Since I beat Dustin Poirier, he's really rebounded and showed how amazing he is. That's two tough competitors. I wish both of those guys the best of luck. Like, that's sort of the McGregor I was sort of hoping this environment would be more conducive to giving us. You know what I mean? But,
yeah.
So that's,
didn't get that at all.
No, that's what I was sort of hoping for. But, yeah.
But, I mean, the thing is that, hardcore McGregor fans want to see this side of him, too.
Yeah.
And he is, even as much of a spectacle it is, I mean, he did teach me a lot about Chechnya at this press conference. I didn't know anything about the history of Chechnya.
Okay, well, actually, not to cut you off there, but there is something to that. So a lot of the really hardcore MMA fans, and I'm reluctant to speak on this because I don't feel informed enough to really talk about it. But all I can say is, Bloody Elbows, one of the main MMA outlets out there. Kareem Zidane, I hope I'm not butchering that name. He's a journalist that investigates basically the intersection between politics and sport. And I've been following his work for years, and he's basically, I think he's one of the main reasons it's even a topic of conversation in the MMA world as far as the relationship between Dagestan and Chechnya and Russia. And I'm reluctant, Pat. I feel bad. I probably should have talked to you about this beforehand, and we'll definitely talk about it after. The only reason I'm reluctant to go into it now is because I don't really know enough to start spouting off, but the history and the goings-on there is super, super controversial. And a lot of MMA fighters from Russia in that part of that world are sort of tied into it. It's a really sticky area. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll fill you in later. A lot of the people listening right now know exactly what I'm talking about, but the only reason I'm not jumping on it is because it's a very real thing. It goes beyond sport and becomes quite uncomfortable, and I'm just not comfortable delving into it because I don't know enough to talk about it. But it's intense. Let's just say that.
When you start bringing up Putin too, like it really seemed to sort of change the vibe or like the energy that was coming from Khabib, anyways, when Conor started to get into whatever all that was. Yeah. And I believe actually it was the Irish dude that brought up Khabib getting the photo with Putin too, right? Like
absolutely, and that guy knew what he was doing. And you know what? Coming into this, knowing that narrative that goes on, and also, by the way, so at the end, remember when they were facing off. You remember the part where Conor was yelling off camera to somebody, and it was Khabib's manager? Do you know about that?
No, I don't. I seen online that somebody was also questioning, like somebody, I think Conor at the very end asked or like shouted out some guy's name, Noah.
Well, that was
who that is either. Do you know?
That was to Khabib's manager, Ali Abdel Aziz. And you want to talk about somebody, I guess, with alleged really colorful background that ties into all the things I was just talking about earlier with that investigative journalist from Bloody Elbow. And again, the reason I'm just reluctant to talk about it is because I don't want to mess up the facts here and say something, but I will just say it's a really controversial, crazy subject about the ties his manager has with a lot of those parts of the world and how it's involved in MMA. And that manager of Khabib is also the manager of a lot of really big name stars in the UFC. You know what I mean? Frankie Edgar, Fabricio Verdum, and on. But so there's a whole other thing there that, again, a lot of the people, all the people watching us on the live stream now, there's a meaningful percentage of them that know sort of where I'm going at there. But again, I guess that's sort of something we'll get into another time. But I knew, knowing that sort of background and the controversy surrounding it, I think that was on a lot of people's minds. Is this something Conor's going to bring up? The history with his father. And remember when he was talking about the guy that got put in jail by Putin for funding his gym and all that sort of thing. And I think it was really odd. I didn't know for sure because it's really crazy, the thought of even bringing that stuff up. But of course, afterwards, I'm here going, of course he's going to say it. Of course he's going to cross that line. So that was expected by a lot of people, I think.
It's just unfortunate because, I mean, again, that I guess, like, that Khabib isn't a shit talker because, I mean, the trouble that Conor has gotten into in the last couple of years too, and even like, was it like a year ago that Conor, there was allegations that Conor had gotten into trouble with some big, like, organized crime guy in Ireland and and a whole bunch of I don't know, like controversy of and fear, I think, from Conor's life at one point in time.
Yeah, that was when he allegedly, again, I don't know the facts, who the hell actually knows, but apparently he got into like a scuff up at a pub and laid a beating on like the son of somebody, a part of the Irish mob. And again, I hope I'm not butchering that because that's really serious shit to be just sort of throwing out there if I'm not certain about what I'm saying. But I know that was alleged, and that's that's what you're talking about. So. I mean,
it's like, both of these guys are like connected to like all this kind of crazy stuff. And then on top of that, like, I kind of rolled my eyes when at one point, I'm always talking to you about like the sort of the promotion and the pro wrestling aspect of what Dana White has been doing to MMA. And like, I always remember that like rule number one of promos and this is even with like improv, like comedy stuff, is that you don't say you're going to murder someone. And Conor kind of said that to Khabib. He said that if he had gotten on the bus, Khabib would be in a box and he would be in a cell.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of a crazy, like, you know, I mean, you're promoting a fight, and it's like, even this, like, bring up the fact that you think that the guy's dad is a coward for, you know, what I'm assuming, and I'm getting the sense it's crazy reasons, like...
And, not to cut you off, again, his dad is held in such high reverence in that country, and so that means way more than you might realize. Like, those statements he's making, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just sort of want to insert that in there, like, that's, like, way more impactful than what people on the outside that don't know the background realize.
Well, exactly. So, like, you do know the history of that shit, and so you're like, oh my god, I can't believe he's saying it. But when a man says that he would have literally murdered the other guy if he had gotten on the bus, then you start to see that it's a little bit too much of a pageantry, or like, I don't believe in the rivalry. I'm seeing too much of the Conor showman when he says shit like that, than as opposed to if he... Like, you know, I mean, he would never murder him. It's ridiculous to even bring that kind of into a promotion of a fight.
Sure. You know? I just think it's at that point where, I don't want to say maybe desperation, but the thing is, at this point, after all these press conferences, think about the tour he did with Mayweather, which was like spanned like 5 countries or 4 countries. And I think it just gets to the point where he's already kicking in the overdrive because he's already said and done and pushed it as much as he possibly can. I think it gets to a point to where it's like, I guess in a way, sort of desperation. It's just like, what can you possibly say at the top, what I've said all this long? And I guess it doesn't get any more real than, you know, Cat threatened with murder, or Cat, but, I mean, that's sort of how I take it. Like, in terms of, let's say, he's just, like, at his wit's end, and it gets to the point to where he's, you know, saying those things.
Well, I mean, the incident with throwing the dolly through the bus and straight up getting arrested, like, and then, you know, even the most impressive question that I heard at that conference was the second or third last guy that straight up asked Dana, like, about using that footage, because I remember talking to you as soon as that happened about, like, this is, like, crazy, and also knowing that Dana White was eventually going to use it in promotion. But you remember right after it happened, Dana was going on ESPN and like news outlets, and he had like the solemn voice and like, you know, this is real serious, guys. And then cut to a couple of months later, and it's like throwing it into the promo videos and shamelessly too.
No, but you know what? What I would say, and I'm not trying to be a Dana White apologist, but what I would say is it was really only, at least from what I can recall, the interview with Dana, like an hour after that happened, in the bowels of like the Barclays Center or whatever, where he was sort of speaking in that somber voice, saying it is the worst thing he's ever done. It's disgusting. In terms of like speaking in that tone, he always did. You're 100% right in terms of like just talk about how, you know, it's just like a disgrace and a bad thing to do. But, and maybe I'm just a sucker for it, I don't know. But is it not what he said? And I didn't first hear this from Dana. I heard it somewhere else on some podcast somewhere. I don't know. I wish I could remember. But is he not right in saying it's a part of the story? It's what happened. And in the past, there's been unfavorable things that happen that were caught on camera or whatever, and we use it as part of the promotion. It's not new, and it isn't.
No, but I mean, he ruined the card because some people got glass in their eye, and was he getting sued by Rose because of it, or that's still a question mark?
Not Rose. Michael Chiesa, the guy that got a cut on his forehead right now publicly, is pressing charges.
I mean, nobody got seriously hurt, but it's like, I think that it's one thing. It's like, it sort of seems like you're condoning it, and that, you know, because honestly, like, for a guy like me and my knowledge and following of the UFC, that whole interaction is the main reason why I'm interested in this fight.
Sure. You know what it makes me think of? I don't know if you can remember the first John Jones-Daniel Cormier fight. I don't know what year this would have been. I don't know if this is 14 or 15. But I'll never forget this. when John Jones and Daniel Cormier got into a legitimate, real, no bullshit, no like promo, actual fist fight at a press conference before their first fight. I remember I was standing in a bar. I was out on a Saturday night looking on my phone and Twitter. And I remember, think about it, at that point there had been hundreds of UFC events, but there's never ever an actual legitimate fight break out at a press conference or any UFC event. And I'll never forget standing there looking at my phone, seeing a clip of John Jones and Daniel Cormier actually starting uncorking punches each other, and an actual real street fight broke out. And I remember actually standing there being in shock, being like, holy shit, in a bar. And I remember, I think I was a little tipsy that night. I woke up the next morning. When I saw it, I was like, I thought I dreamt that. I didn't think that was real. And that's another situation where that first fight, the build-up, there was not a single promo for that fight in the build-up that footage wasn't used. In fact, there wasn't a single fight promo for the second fight where that footage isn't used. And rest assured, if they fight a third time, because as of yesterday, in case you didn't know, John Jones is reinstated as of end of October. He's back in action. They'll damn well be using it again if they fight a third time.
Yeah, no, that's a whole nother thing there. I heard that he got 30 months taken off his suspension for ratting out either another fighter or another coach or a supplement that he was taking. Did you hear that?
I did hear it, but to be honest, I saw the links. I just because it just happened just yesterday, and I just happened to have been super busy both yesterday and today. I haven't had a chance to actually read any articles. I have heard that, yes, and that is something being floated out there in the sphere. Absolutely. I don't know enough to say, but as far as the whole U side of thing is, I don't even want to necessarily go down that road right now because there's all kinds of fuckery afoot there. But yeah, I heard that too, and I mean, who knows?
It's weird for me because I love this kind of over the top. John Jones is such a fucking bad guy, and that little detail is enough to make you just hate the guy. But at the same time, I'm kind of torn because I think it's probably your bad influence on me, or I'm it's taking away from the actual competition of these fights.
Yeah.
When fights are built on a guy assaulting a group of fighters on a bus, or a guy ratting out allegedly rumored to have ratted out other people to get his USADA punishment down. I don't know. Yeah, no,
I know. I'm with you 100%, but you know me, Pat. I'm all about that, I'm always talking the same shit to the point where I roll my eyes at myself, like I've said in the past, but all this shit, that surrounds it, the bells and whistles and everything that goes into the promotion of it, it's all fine and well, and it's a part of the business, but it gets in the way of how fucking incredible a lot of these guys really are. John Jones is a lot of people widely considered the best fighter on the planet. Conor McGregor, for me, as a fan, it's as hard as it is, completely remove the persona from the equation. Take all that, character and persona and the whole, the whole, image of Conor McGregor, put it aside, and just from the very technical aspects of him as a martial artist, he's unquestionably one of the greatest on the planet and one of my absolute favorites to watch. And as far as Khabib goes, in terms of again, being that elite top fight level guy, top highest level in the game fighter, in the grappling department, I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm just sort of caught up in the whole thing. Is that all that shit and the vast majority of our conversations are not just mine and yours, but I mean, the dialogue out there in the MMA world, the stuff to surround all the out of the cage stuff, but when the date comes on October 6th and the moment comes where they both actually got to make the walk and get in there, all that shit means nothing, and the moment is going to be fucking incredible. Because the one thing that I did get from this, I came away from this press conference back, was that that time is coming again. That Saturday night where you actually see the music hit and McGregor make the walk, and when it gets to the point where they're both in there and Bruce Buffer's doing that intro, that is a fucking intense, crazy moment. That's coming soon, and it's what it's all about. And
yeah. No, it's gonna be huge, and And yeah, like it's obviously going to be the biggest fight of this year. The UFC is going to make a ton of money on it, and I don't even know like when the last time they're like what even could be in contention.
I suppose
since Conor's last fight, like I mean, there was like what, one Ronda Rousey fight
since Conor's last one. You mean?
Since Conor's last fight, like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, are you talking about? Yeah. No, there's been nothing. The last biggest fight in MMA was McGregor's last fight, which was versus Alvarez in New York. Yeah, there was nothing that came even remotely close to that. There was a couple big fights inside the sport in terms of like meaningful fights, but not number-wise, business-wise, nothing comes handy to it.
No. I mean, like even with GSP coming back, like I don't know what kind of numbers that did last year, but I mean, he certainly isn't like. I mean, there's nobody like Conor,
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that like, did he need to do this shit with the personal stuff? Because you got Khabib, who's undefeated. Says he's never lost a round. I don't know that for sure, but that's what he said. And Conor, who's been away for 2 years, and Khabib is a wrestling guy, and Conor's is a stand-up fighter. Like the fight on its own, probably. I mean, definitely. Conor doesn't even do anything. Like he didn't even need to do this press conference, and this fight is still going to be the biggest fight that the UFC has had in 2 years.
That's the cool thing about it, because a lot of the conversation around this fight is about the fact that there's really limited press, whereas in the past McGregor's always done a complete blowout, and there's always been set dates leading up to it. As of now, this is the only arranged presser that we're going to see of McGregor that we know about. Usually in advance in the lead up to the fight that on fight week, on Thursday, they do a presser, then they have the weigh-ins. But as of now, I'm fairly certain, I would not be surprised if you don't see McGregor speak on a mic one time before the fight actually happens. Because that, again, you may recall the question in the press conferences there, some reporter asked about how, hey, so like you're really removing this from the equation this time. How is that allowing you to focus? Is this allowing you to focus? Or sorry, how is this fight different because you removed a lot of the media that you usually do?
Yeah. So you don't even think, like, in the lead up to the week of the fight, like, that they're not going to have anything to say, like, not taking any questions. Like, I assume that the weigh-ins, like, or the pageant weigh-ins or whatever, that's going to be done in front of the public still, right? Absolutely,
100%. That's for certain. But I just get the feeling, again, I'm really sort of talking out of my ass here, but right now, I wouldn't be shocked if the next time you see him in person is... Well, they do have a media day on, I think it's either Wednesday or Thursday, but I could just see him just very simply not being there. He's not going to be like sitting there like everybody else. So, who knows? It's really hard to say. Like he's different than everybody else. If it was any other fighter, no matter who it is, they would be having to do it come the Wednesday on fight week or Thursday on fight week. But it's been sort of pretty well documented that he's not going down that road this time. He's not going to be putting all the effort into the promoting. I think maybe perhaps it's just because he's going to focus on the fight because, again, it doesn't get talked about, but matchup-wise, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't want to get in predictions now because I got to reserve judgment until fight week because, especially with one like this, man, I have no idea. Right now, I'm leaning towards Khabib. Is where I stand at this moment in terms of getting the win. But the thing is, Conor's really pulling out all the stops and saying anything he can possible to get him emotional, which is exactly what he does. He gets people emotional, gets them to charge at him, and with his super masterful accuracy and timing, he makes them run directly into his straight cross left hand. And that's how he smashed everybody. People get emotional. They want to knock his head off. They literally run at him. The Eddie Alvarez fight, his last fight in UFC, where he did sort of this, very similar to what we saw today in terms of just poking and just really sort of saying anything he can to make him emotional and succeeding. And these guys want to come out and knock their head off. Same thing with Aldo. it's just a matter of if Khabib's going to let that get to him. And to be honest, when Connor's first started down the road about saying some of the things about his countrymen and that sort of thing, when he first started and didn't go too deep, I was kind of like, no, I don't think this is going to work on Khabib. I don't think he's going to get the rise he wants. But as he went a little deeper, I think I heard a little bit of emotion in Khabib's broken English. I don't know.
Oh my God, I think he broke down Khabib within 10 minutes. Like, at first, it really looked like Khabib wasn't even looking at him. And I was like, this is dope. This is exactly what I wanted to see. But, like, and as soon as, like, Khabib started to try and chat with him, or, like, because he can't, and especially if he can't speak English, like, he just looked a little foolish. And, like, I'm with you. My sense is that I think Khabib is, I'm leaning towards Khabib, but the press conference and just to see McGregor sort of rattle him a bit made me a bit shaky on that prediction. Not a lot, but it made me go, like he was able to get into his head within 10, 15 minutes of that press conference.
100%. Exactly. And that's sort of why I'm like, man, that's how I felt like stylistically, trying to remove all that shit. I'm like, I feel like it favors Khabib, but these are the things. Conor he legitimately has magic. And this is, what is this? What's the date? This is the 20th. Even though October 6th is, approaching quickly. And, when fight week comes, Khabib has historically had a extremely hard time making weight. And when it comes to the point where fight week, where everybody's sucked in, literally their cheekbones are sunk in, and they have to, face off against each other, whether it be at the ceremonial weigh-in or whatever the case is, man, and God knows, again, I said earlier in the week, I was like, man, this is just the very beginning of this ride. And I mean, come fight week, who knows what's going to happen between now and then in terms of what Conor's going to say, what he's going to do, especially when they're in the same city. Come fight week, I mean, God knows what's going to happen and what lengths Conor will go to rattle him and whether he'll be successful or not. And if he does, and things change, and that's why I reserve judgment until fight week. Pretty much reserve it until they make the walk. And if you get any kind of inclination that that Khabib's rattled, fuck, who knows? I mean, maybe we'll pull it. So well, that's why I gotta wait. But yeah, no, I feel you. He definitely showed signs of rattling Khabib a little bit, and we're really early in the game to be getting worked up and emotional.
I got a question for you about Conor with the belts again. Were you aware that he was going to come out with that? Had he been talking about that, or was that kind of a surprise thing?
No, I assumed. I can speak very well, but I 100% assumed he'd be coming with the belts. 100%.
This is so irritating. It's so irritating, like, the fucker.
Yeah, I know, right? But the thing is that, unfortunately, and this kills me, but the thing is, we've talked about in the past, where it gets a little too pro wrestling. The one thing that used to really bother the hell of me is that the hierarchy and the reverence and the meaning behind the belts, that's been gone for years. Ever since they started introducing interim title for every fallout or injury, unfortunately, just because it's the reality is that the belts just don't mean what they did years back. They just don't have that much meaning anymore. So if this was 6 years ago and somebody came out with a UFC belt that wasn't actually the champion, it would be the talk of the town and across MMA media. It'd be complete outrage. But the thing is, it's simply a prop now. It's almost like I don't even know who the hell the champions are. It's just a complete mess. So basically what I'm getting at is, yeah, but at the same time, I 100% knew, and that was going to happen. And again, if this was 5 or 6 years ago, the UFC would never let somebody do that. But again, Conor's the exception. And they're just yeah, whatever, You come on out with your two belts.
Because I don't even think it was just one of those points that was just never brought up by anybody. Yeah. And it wasn't it was so obvious almost immediately that, how much of and again, Dana, I think, is an awesome promoter, but he is so tied to Conor. I mean, even to the point that when Conor was asking somebody for a cup, Dana goes no, and then shares a drink with Conor, and then you find out that the fucking company is one of the sponsors.
I know that's fucking hilarious. To be honest, this is what I will say. When I first saw that, I just sort of felt like when I first saw him toasting the drink, or at least Dana taking the drink, I was like, all right, maybe he's just trying to damage control, just trying to be all right, fucking I'll shut you down. But when they said like he's legitimately it's gonna be an octagon, I was like, oh my god, wow. Wow. I was like, there's no defending it. I was like, there's just, it is what it is. That's fucking hilarious. I guess that's the genius in him. And this is all the stuff he's working into his contract that only comes to light now. That's just so hilarious. That's just so hilarious.
Yeah, and then Conor got him to repeat it into his own mic. Like, it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. But either way, you know what? As crazy as it was, and it had its ups and downs, and for like again, there was a you know, too much of the time. It was just them speaking over each other, and it just sort of leaves the audience and the media and everybody sort of with their hands open, like, you know, someone get control of this, someone jump in here, and it just becomes uncomfortable and awkward. But do you know what's funny? When by the time it was over, by the time it came to the point where they faced off, and McGregor was yelling at Adele and Aziz, and then walked off stage, I'm no joke. I was applauding. Like, I came away from it. No matter what, it's crazy and ridiculous. I came away from it. I was like, it was entertaining. Even if at some points it was uncomfortable, some points it was cringeworthy, it was entertaining the whole way through. And it left me going, that was fun. That was an entertaining thing that happened right there. You know, onto the fight. Onto the fight.
And it's so awesome to have him back. Like, love him or hate him, it's always a spectacle, and it's always something to talk about. And it's either come away kind of shaking your head like you can't believe what he did, or like what most people do, that's just like fucking loving the guy, loving his move, and like his moves and his shit talk. It's like there's no denying that it's on point, that he brings whatever he's involved with to another level. Love him or hate him.
100%. And again, like I said, not to harp on this, and I was stumbling over my words when I was talking about it earlier, but we all forget a lot of time, like we all get caught up in the hoopla, everybody does, but when the actual fight week comes, and when the morning weigh-ins happen, the ceremonial weigh-ins happen, and then we wake up on Saturday and it's like, oh shit, that fight is tonight. And then when you sit down and rent the pay-per-view and it actually comes to that point where they walk out, it's like, you for both Khabib, it applies to everybody, but especially McGregor, it's like the level of respect and admiration you have, again, loving or hating him for how much of a badass he is, just speaking of Conor specifically, is like, it's through the roof, and it's a really amazing, really cool moment. We're going to leave it at that. Pat, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join me on this live stream. It's been very cool. I really appreciate that very much. I don't need to put you on the spot here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that your most recent feature film, Incredible Violence, has been killing it from what I've been reading. The reviews online. You were featured on the Cannes Film Festival in France. I see the Atlantic Film Festival in Halifax with crazy glowing reviews this past weekend. And you got the Stitches Film Festival in Spain, which my girlfriend, who's from Spain, tells me is like the biggest horror film festival in Europe. So can you speak to that for just a real quick moment, or at least tell people where to find it or how they can check it out?
That's awesome, Dave. It's almost as if like I had said that I wanted you to give me a promo or something.
I know, but I know you didn't at all. That was just something I was going to do for you. Hey, I'm just because I'm proud of you, buddy. That's all it's about, to be honest. Full disclosure, Pat had no idea, and I knew I was going to put him on the spot. But hey, maybe I just plugged it in enough, and that's all we got to say about it. And I just want to say that's very cool, and I appreciate a busy, big filmmaker like you taking the time to sit down with an aspiring MMA media contributor like me and talk about the craziness that was UFC 229 press conference. And thank all of you people for checking it out. It's been a fun hour or so almost. Can you believe it? Or 45 minutes of chatting with you guys and recapping it all. Keep it tuned to my Twitter, DaveNoseMMA, and the MMA latest YouTube page and Twitter page. And we've got a lot of cool things coming up. So enjoy